Hi, Marcia. Hi, Mary. Oh, this is so frustrating. I thought I did everything right and still, oh gosh. It's so frustrating. I have been working so hard this week to get this show going. But let me take some deep breaths. Thank you for finding me. I know this is a pain in the neck. But I appreciate it. Hi, Marcia and Mary and Cheryl. You are a sight for sore eyes. Once again, I started talking and Mark came down. Thank goodness he lets me know. And he said, "You're not on." It's like, what? The only thing I'm wondering, hi, Hopi. Hi, Happy New Year, everyone. No, it's not your computer. I brought up my stream and clicked on it and then clicked at 3 o'clock, click go live. Now, maybe I shouldn't have brought the stream up first, but I was trying to be very deliberate and get everything lined up. And then I hit go live and thought it was on the starting screen. Then I came in actually 1 minute early at 3:04 and started talking, and Mark said, "You're not on." I do my best talking when you guys aren't here. So hello, everyone. And I don't blame anybody if they said, "That's it, this woman can't get it going." But I've had a very busy week. I'm still holding out for Ukraine. I will until the very end. Also, our show today is dedicated to a lovely woman, a mother of a 6-year-old. And please think about her. I said that I wouldn't any longer say much with politics because I know that you know and we know, but I kind of felt like she needed to be acknowledged, and scary times we live in. So let's have some fun today if we possibly can. I've got a conclusion, which is always good. This is why I've been so busy, because I've got my class coming up in a week. And so I've been cutting out fabric. I have been quilting my Sparrow quilt. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And then I decided I needed, Happy New Year, Marcia. I decided I needed to finish. This is how I started with the fall landscape. And if anyone would like a copy of this, I call it a pattern. It's a drawing, but it's what you need if you want to do an art quilt. So here it is. And are you ready to see the finished piece? And you remember I told you that I learned when I entered my quilt, that is the waterfall quilt. The judge mentioned I needed to maintain the same level of quilting throughout. So I will show you what I did to that end. But you saw this much last time. What I'm going to get ready and show you now is the close-up of how I handled the picture frame. So let me bring my camera, get it in place so you can see it. Yay, and the camera's working good. This is wonderful. So, okay. Let me turn off this light. There's a little bit of a bright light. I'll bring some light from over here if I need it. But I think actually all of them are kind of washing out the quilt. So, I did all the quilting in here to kind of differentiate between the different layers of leaves and the mountain ranges and all of the trees and shrubbery down in here. Then I said, okay. Oh, remember last week I showed you how I had bunched up the quilting underneath? I did take all of those stitches out, ironed it, starched it, stretched it back down, and now it is nice and smooth under here. So I'm very happy. You know, I told you if it bothers you, go ahead and do it, because once you know it bothers you, every time you look at it, you will feel ill. All right, so now I haven't gotten up every little scrap piece of thread, so don't worry if you see a few threads, because I'll do that when I'm finished. But what I did, I told you about, let me get my, I've got a favorite little, here they are, favorite little pair of scissors that I keep at the long arm, but I love them for any of this work. I no longer use scissors where I have to put my fingers in like this, because my knuckles are so big with arthritis that these are very painful. So what I use all the time are spring-load Fiskars, because that way it does not hurt my arthritic joints. So I highly recommend these. Now, when I work at the long arm, where I'm doing lots of little corrections and thread snipping, these are really awesome. You have to be careful, they're very sharp, but they are wonderful. And the tips are small enough that if I need to get out an unwanted thread, I can just stick it right in the stitch and nip it off. So what I decided to do with this is I did a triangle, and I'll show you the top one I'm going to do with you. And then on the side, I did a triangle. See that? You can see it better in person. I'm sorry that the camera tends to wash it out a wee bit. But see, I still need to do little thread nippings. But here's what I did. A triangle with the stitches just going this way. Then this is called, on a frame, this is called reeding. And because I guess it looks like the reeds that come from the water plant, you know, they're kind of straight. Then on the corners, I did this, kind of an Art Deco look. But I did this on my domestic machine, and you know I'm not good at doing at any kind of quilting on a domestic. But so what I did is I stayed with straight lines, and just very slowly and carefully, I had a foot on my upstairs machine, and I just rode that foot along the edge. It's a wider than normal foot. Rode it along the edge. And so here is one of the other corners and the side. So what I'm going to do now, I have the machine loaded with the right thread. I'm going to show you how I make the triangles, and then I'll show you doing the reeding, which is just the narrow parallel lines. I'll finish the reeding to the corner. Then I've decided with this one, a lot of times I'll do what's I call a knife edge closure, which is where I fold in each side, cut out about 1/4 of an inch of the batting, and then fold each side inwards, wrong sides together, and then butt them up and do a little invisible slip stitch. But with this one, I decided I wanted to do binding, because that'll give that last little, and I'm not going to take out any of the batting because I want it to look like a nice finished little line around this frame. So, okay, look, now I'll bring you over to the machine and show you how I did this effect. And as you see, it gives a lot more oomph, a lot more gravitas to the quilting of this frame look. All right, so let me bring this to you. All right. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Bring this down a little here. Now you can see my sewing machine. All right. So what I'm going to do, I don't have the exact foot here, but I've just got to eyeball this and make sure I stay in line. Now, just to make sure I can see it and you can see it, I've already drawn the lines that I'm wanting to stitch on here. So now I'm just going to go over them with the chalk so that they're easy for me to see. And it's 3 lines. So here I go down here and here and here. Now you see why I like Taylor's chalk so much, because it is very easy to use, easy to see, and easy to wipe off. All right, I'm going to turn down my stitch length to 2.2 and get my foot pedal right, and here we go. So now I'm just going to put the foot down. Whoops, that's right. This one I have to manually put it down. You can always tell when I go from my upstairs machine. But I'm going to hold it and get the stitches going first to kind of lock them in. All right, go up to here. Now, instead of, whoops, I'm not sure, whoops, I'm not sure you're seeing it, so let me go here. All right, whoops. Maybe I can do this, yes. So then what I do here, kind of lock the stitch. I'm going to put the needle down, and then I'm going to turn this around like this. Okay, I'm hoping you can see this. And then put the foot back down and come down the other side. Whoops, my thread broke. Why did my thread break? But I knew that if I was going to quilt this, well, you know what? Upstairs, I put this kind of thread on a standing thread spool stand, and it could be that this might give me a little bit of a trouble, because this is one of the like rayon threads, and it is variegated, and rayon is not as strong. The threads are delicate and shiny, and sometimes they don't hold up as well as good old cotton or polyester. So let me just, instead of turning the corner, I'm going to do this a little differently now that I see that. Because if it's on a thread stand, it will do so much better. It feeds more easily. So all the way down to here. Then I'm going to cut my thread. This time I'm not going to turn that corner, because without the thread stand, it becomes a wee bit difficult. All right, now I'm going to come back up here where the next row starts and put my foot down. Then, oops, it broke again. This machine also is probably a little tighter. It's always very hard when you change different machines to do the same work. And also, please remember that your 1/4 inch seam allowance is going to be slightly different on different machines. So usually I recommend, if you start a project on one machine, try to stay with it throughout if possible. Just makes things a little easier. All right, I'm going to come back up here, put my foot down, and here we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to stitch down here. And this time, instead of doing the automatic thread cutter, I'm going to cut it myself to leave a longer tail. And I will bring my foot up. I no longer have to have the foot down button on, because I'm not going to turn the fabric. All right. And then I'll come back here on this net, the last little line, start at the very top. And when I first start those stitches, just give a couple in place to kind of lock them. And then sew off the fabric. Let me do this, and then, okay, then I cut my thread, leave a long enough tail that I don't run out. Whoops. Well, it doesn't if you, oh no. Yep, this machine, without having the thread stand, which I left upstairs, this machine is giving this rayon thread a little bit of a fit. Now, I only use rayon threads on my art quilts. If it's going to be a quilt that people are going to use, I will use cotton or polyester just because of this. Rayon was made for embroidery, and that's just a whole different kind of sewing. All right, so now I come back over here, put it up on that second line to match the other beginning of the other stitch. Then I'm just going to hold it in place just a second, do a few stitches, and then come stitch down. All right. Righty. Now, and I put the brown thread in the bobbin. Oh, I was quilting on the Sparrow quilt. I can't wait to talk to you about that. And realized I had forgotten to change the bobbin. So I had black thread in the bobbin. So I'm probably going to pull that. Luckily, it was just, a little portion of half of the top row. And I'll probably pull it back out and make it right because it will show up on the light blue background. So here we go now. And I want you to be able to see that I have stitched this pyramid and then just get a rag and brush off, and the rest will wear off, but it's pretty good. So now that is my last triangle. Everything else is done except the reading right here. And to do that, the hardest thing I have doing a domestic embroidering with a domestic machine, or I'm sorry, quilting, is it's very hard to move the quilts under the harp and not knock everything off of your sewing table. So that part frustrates me. All right, now let me once again. So this, I tell you what, just remember, if you ever want to use rayon on a machine and it's giving you trouble by breaking, make sure you use your thread stand. A thread stand will allow that spool. These spools are wound differently than your regular sewing threads, and it will make all the difference because upstairs I had no problem with this. Okay, let me try this one more time because I would like to show you how I did the reading. It's a lot easier than you would think. Now you can use one of those quilting feet that I want to make sure that the reading lines up on this side and on the other side of that triangle. So here I go. So now if this breaks again, I'll probably stop because you'll have the idea. But it's just really hard not having a thread stand here. So I just run this down to the end. And since the quilt is pretty stiff, I am not, oops, see, that's what happens. Okay, I just happened to watch it. Rayon thread is a little more stretchy. And so what happens when this cuts the thread? So that's my biggest problem. When it cuts the thread, the rayon thread pops back because it's stretchy. And so that is a problem. But upstairs on the thread cutter, I didn't have the same problem, but this thread's under more tension because it doesn't have the nice thread stand. All right, so now just come back down here, do this again. Do a couple stitches on each end. I'm just going to pull it back. Okay, here we go. And we'll start again down here. That's a lot of tension. I'm going to cut that loose there and cut the bobbin loose. It's okay to have these long pieces of thread. I'll get them when I'm done. And then just go again. But by saving all of the pictures of picture frames, yeah, it just ripped on its own. But by saving all the pictures of picture frames, I was able to get an idea of what would look good here. And then, like I said, that by doing this on a domestic, I didn't want to do any kind of circles or curves. But you can see this is halfway done now. Whoops, this is halfway done. It'll be all the way down here. And then I'm going to bind it with the same fabric. I'm going to bind it with this same fabric. And that'll give a nice little finished carved-like looking edge. So, once again, let me come back to the main camera. Okay. And I will show you again what it looks like. And I think that that's a very smart way to finish what is an art quilt. And once it's bound and it's all ready to go, I really do like it. It's my preferred way of finishing an art quilt. It tells you, it looks like a regular piece of art in a frame. So it kind of tells you, hey, I'm a piece of art. So this is now done. And except for the binding, then I will send a picture to our artist who allowed us to copy his work. And so I will send some good detailed pictures taken in good light so he can see exactly what I've done. I'm really curious. It's Reid of Wender, Wender Aspire, Aspire, and his artwork is on Etsy. It's beautiful. It's reasonable. And go check him out, please. Wender Aspire on Etsy. All right. So I like it. I think it's pretty cool. Oh, I hope he'll be impressed. I hope he won't be disappointed. That's all. So, but I like it. I think all in all, it came out pretty good. All right. So now I get to talk about something really fun. I have been pushing myself. Whoops, you just quilted 2 quilts on your domestic, and it's hard, especially quilts that are fairly large. Oh, it's hard and it's heavy. And luckily, prices of home quilting machines are going down. And I think pretty much anybody can get a decent machine for about $5,000 if you look carefully. And also really consider, it really is art. Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. What a sweetie. Hi, Miss Bonnie. Y'all are great. It's so good to see you. You just got the live stream on the phone. Oh, okay. You walk Chloe. The wind is it is very strong. In fact, I had to close the window. We've got sun out right now, really bright sun because it's been so cloudy for so long. But we had a couple days of rain because we've had a drought here. But that wind is ushering in colder weather. It's like, darn. When you're getting ready in a week to go to Myrtle Beach, I kind of feel bad. Mark's going to stay here and hold down the fort. But I'm so looking forward to getting away. I really am. I'm going to miss him and I'm going to miss the dogs, but just me taking care of just me, that's a great thing. All right. And then a week after I come back, I have to have that kidney stone removed. And that's going to be interesting. We'll see. But remind me before I leave to tell you what I'm thinking about for next week's show, because I plan to get on the road Sunday morning around 11. So we'll talk about, maybe we'll do a Monday show, which might be nice because then I can show you outside and all of that. And those of you who might not be home during the day Monday, it's okay. At least you'll have those pictures to look at. So, okay. I'm going to bring the close-up camera back to show you how I decided how to quilt. In fact, let me real quickly, here it is. I want to bring up, okay, let's see. All right. Here I am sharing, my quilt that I did, the first Sparrow quilt that I did last year at the Myrtle Beach Quilt Party. So here I am with that quilt. And I ended up finishing that quilt, and then I quilted it, gave it to my daughter, and she has sent pictures showing me that she has it covering her up on the couch, which is always, that's when I think quilts are the happiest, So now let me see what else, if I can find another one. And let me see. Let's see. I was hoping I had a finished picture, but I was in such a hurry to get it ready for her. This was the basic color scheme, that I was going for, and it turned out a little more blue. But you're trying to order fabric online, that gets tricky. But I was hoping I would have another one of the quilt when it was finished. Okay. I don't see it, but let me see. But I started a new quilt. And I'll give you a little hint right here. I decided to order fabrics from Marshall Dry Goods. I wanted them to look like Stonehenge type fabrics because I like the modeling, and I thought this would be really cool. So now I don't know if I've downloaded any pictures further, but then I downloaded pictures of cherries because I wanted to do an applique border, and I wanted my sparrows to be sitting in a cherry tree. So then I found images of cherry leaves and I was off. So now let me see. I don't think though I did do a mock-up of it. And here I planned it out on EQ8, which is always a great idea because it gives you an idea of exactly how much you have to have. I would like to say that I finished quilting it this week so that I could show you, but sadly, I did not get it finished. I'm trying to look for anything else, but I didn't get it finished. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see. I'm saying I didn't get a picture of it completed, but I think I did. I just don't know if I can find. No, I doubt it. I can't just bring up my photos. Okay, so now I will come in with the detail camera and show you what I found online. Now, someone told me they wanted to make the Sparrow quilt, but they didn't know how to quilt it. And I said, spend time online looking up people who quilted There's Sparrow. And this woman, and you know what? Now I have forgotten her name again, but hold on one second. I think I can find it. If I put it, I did put it on here. Let me look really quickly. Well, I know I saved it. I know I saved it, but now I'm not seeing it. I don't want to keep you waiting too long. All right. Well, I know it's on here. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring it up in time. And okay. All right. I don't see it up here. But both of these are on there are two quilters on YouTube. And if you go to the YouTube and look up shows, type in quilted sparrows and you will find these two that I mostly went with. This is the one that I had done some copying from, that I got ideas of how to quilt when I did my daughter's Sparrow quilt. And I did the big feathery wings for my daughter's quilt. I did a more dense chest there. I did the straight lines, and I did the cute little feathers around the eye. And they really are cute. And you see them. Now she also did a double line effect too. And then she did this beautiful bubbles and echoes around it. And she did um an angled line across these little leaves. And then I saw another woman online. And now this one, and this one were ones she did. She took a picture of her quilt, brought it up on a tablet that has an art drawing program, and then she took a stylus and she drew ideas. So I was looking at hers trying to figure out, what would I want to do? Now I could do all of that feathery stuff, but that's a lot of work, and there are quite a few birds in this quilt. But I loved this one. So I modified this one and brought it like down further like this. I put the lines here. And then I made the little chest detail deeper and bigger. So it's less, I didn't want it that tight. Then all I put on the head were cute little head feathers like these, and left the rest of the head untouched because sometimes I tend to over quilt, and this time it was let the birds shine. So I ended up, nope, I didn't do the lines. I just did a little feather by the eye. Now, first I thought about doing a loop and leaves and maybe even trying to do 3 cherries. That was too much. So what I did is I just, above the quilt, where it's the top border, I just did loops. Then in around here, I did loops and leaves. Tried to keep it very simple. I want those, I want the birds to really stand out. I also did an echo line, quarter of an inch away from the stitch in the ditch that I did on all the seams. I wanted to give it a little umph. And I used polyester batting on this because knew I would be quilting around hand applique, and I wanted to have a little more volume to my quilting. So now that, I'm sorry to say, whoops, I forgot to come back to the main camera before I just did that to you. And let me tell you, I understand there is a man, what's his name? Something Patula. He is a man who works at I'm pretty sure he's the manager of a very busy McDonald's, and he has a camera on his person somehow, and he shows you how he builds meals, sandwiches. It's so different than when I worked there when I was 16, 53 years ago. But anyway, it's done so differently. So I was really excited to see how does McDonald's work now. And it's fascinating. It's very regimented, very fast. Everything is very automated. So you get the same amount of ketchup, same amount of mustard, same amount of pickles. Everything is very, and he is so fast. But I realized it made me very nauseous to watch him because he's moving all the time. And it was like, so now I can't watch him. He's cute as he can be. I mean, you don't see him. I have no idea what he looks like, but I love the way he treats his people and the way he's so efficient. You can tell that he most likely did some kind of training that says exactly how to do everything, because everything, there's a method to it all. So anyway, but that's the reason I'm telling you that story, is because I'm going to be a lot more sensitive about how I move cameras around here, because it doesn't feel good when you get nauseous. All right, so now, cutting out the fabric for the Myrtle Beach quilt class I'm taking. And the reason I show you this, and the reason I'm going to try to do a show at Myrtle Beach at the quilt party, is because if some of you have never been to a retreat or a class or a festival or whatever, I like to let you know what it's like. And so you can decide if you think you want to try it. And some of you might live where there's not a class or a show close by. So I'd kind of take you along with me. And if you don't like it, I understand. But you don't want to see what goes on in the restaurant. Luckily, this McDonald's is very clean and he's very careful. But I tell you, yeah, it's like, do we really want to see what the floor looks like in the kitchen of our favorite restaurant? We might not eat what comes out anymore. So let me switch you once again to my detail close-up camera. I think I got it pretty much in shape there. Okay. So here we go. This is the container. Now this container is wonderful. I love it. It's so pretty. It reminds me of a Van Gogh-like painting. The only thing is it doesn't have a handle, so I may have to switch to another container that has a handle. But here are all the fabrics, and I wrote notes on everything, but when I first looked at the pattern, I said, let me look at the fabric I was given and the fabric I added. Let's see what we've got. So I have decided I wanted a dark green for the leaves. Oh, let me show you this. Here is the pattern. Now, the reason she chose this pattern is because it looks like an applique quilt, an old-fashioned, good old hand applique quilt. But it's not. It's done with the stitch and flip method of having blocks that you put on the edges of these. You stitch it, flip it over, and that gives you the shape. So I love the traditional look of this, the old-fashioned look. I'd spend so much time doing art quilts that sometimes it's really, really nice to be able to do something a little traditional and scratch that traditional itch. Because, for the most part, all quilts are wonderful to me. So here is my inspiration, which the teacher designed this. This quilt used to have some stars right here, but she now has changed them to 9 patches to mirror the centers here, and I think it does look nicer. It's a lot easier because you have to do 20 of these cornerstones, and the 9 patches are nice and easy. The center 9 patches are elongated 9 patches. These are a little tricky. And unfortunately, I didn't read closely enough the instructions at first to see that she said starch all your fabric. So I'm trying to catch up with starching, and I'm going to take the starch with me. But when I looked at this fabric, it is wonderful, honest to gosh, real French general fabric. It has very different colorway. I mean, I love this. And some of them, it has some of a dark gray green in it. And let me find some more of these pieces. And so using a bright green wasn't going to quite work for me because this is really, really subtle. And it's very much a gray green. And so what I did is look through my stash, and I found this fabric. I found this fabric. In fact, I ordered this. And this is going to be for the sepal, which the sepal is the part under the bloom right there. It's a little lighter than these that she did. So this is my sepal fabric, but I labeled it before I used it. Then this is going to be the leaves because I wanted the leaves to be darker. This is going to be a nice, sharp, dark color in the group. And I just think, let me show you, I just think that it goes really well with the fabric. Hi, Lisa. I'm showing you how I've been cutting up my fabric. Now, Lisa, I'm going to show you something, but you've got to pretend you don't see it. I am not happy when people do sewing ahead of a class. And I'm a stickler for rules. But I was trying something, so I've actually done some sewing ahead. Oh, when I cut out the fabric for the class, I use a great big slotted ruler because it makes cutting so much easier. But I save all of my scraps because you never know when you might need them. Michelle and I, so evidently I'm not using this one, but it would look so good itself because, whoops, I'm sorry. Let me bring it back up here. It would look so good with this fabric, wouldn't it? So who knows, I might find something for it. But I chose my colors, and like I have to do the 9 patches around the outside, so I'm saving these. I may use this, or I may, this is I think going to be my border. I may use either this or this for the 9 patches. Okay, let me get all this organized. Then this is the fabric I cut out for these pecan, they're called Pecan Blossoms. So I thought that was just such a beautiful color and pattern. And I just want to let you know, all of the French General fabric came from none other than Miss Lisa. So she's not going to spoil me anymore. I'm going to spoil her by taking her out to dinner. I'm hoping Tuesday night. Oh, okay. I've got this down as center, I don't know, center of the 9 patches. I don't know if I'm going to use it around the outside. That might be a great use for it. So evidently I already cut it out. Yay. Okay, so it's the centers for the outer 9 patch. Then my background is a white on white or white on cream. So I've got that cut out, sashings, extra background, and then there's going to be quite a few squares that are going to be sewn and stitched down, and a few extra things and my leaves. So what I did, and this is the sepal, so that's a lighter green. What I did is I was trying to figure out how am I going to do these center elongated 9 patches, right, like right here. And I really wanted to use this beautiful jelly roll I had. And I thought, how do I do that? And I said, well, I want the pecan blossom to be the real, oh, I know. No. Now I know what I'm using that really cool color for. I just remembered. It's not the center of the outer, it's not the center of the outer 9 patches. It's for this center. This center on this and the original pattern were both light, but I thought I kind of wanted something with some punch. And I just think that the color is so exquisite, just a rich color. So this is for the center of all 12 of my blocks. I'm making it the 12 patch size. So that's what that's for. Now, okay, boy, I better write this down because evidently I do forget. All right, so that's going to be the center. Then I've got this cream or white on natural for all my background colors. This was a very hard pattern to read. These are called loops. I don't know why, but they're called loops. So it was, and the way the pattern was written, it was written for the color scheme, which was all oranges and blacks, and I didn't like that color scheme. But instead of naming it more specifically, she said for all the orange in it, for all the black pieces, and it was a little tricky. So it took me some time. I had to use some brain cells, but this one's one of my favorites. I tried different schemes since I wanted to use the jelly rolls and I didn't have enough. I had to make it work. So some of them got a little bit mixed, but I'm going to use these varieties. Each block will have something just slightly different. Some might be pretty close to the same, but I used the lightest of the light backgrounds from the jelly roll, and then I used the pinks from the jelly roll. Save the reds for maybe on the outer go rounds. I will see. But I went ahead and made these up. Now, still have 2 more to finish sewing. And I've got to be honest, they came out oddly sized. I wasn't using a 1/4-inch foot like she recommended. And guess what? That has come back to haunt me. And I'll show you right here. Like this one is quite a bit shorter than that one. So I'm going to have to be really careful, and I'm going to have to split the needle, meaning when you're supposed to use a 1/4-inch seam allowance, some of these are going to have an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm going to make my stitches shorter and just try to fudge it around so it all comes out reasonably the same. This is why I tell you I'm not a very good traditional piecer. I really have to work at it, but I just think that is so pretty. So, but I didn't want them to overshadow the pecan blossoms, so I'm keeping them light and pale for the centers of the block, which I think is going to be pretty good with, that's why I wanted a little darker center. So this is the center. Then these are going to go off around the edges like that. And then the pecan blossoms will be on the outside here and here. So just trying to bounce around some color and some tints, because this color, the background here and the background here, are really the same. The only difference is the tint, and that's the lightness or the darkness. But if you put them together, you see, oh wow, that really is very similar color. So this is what I've got going. And Lisa, don't Oh, hi, Dolores. Hi, Laura. It is so good to see. Oh, your last chance Christmas. Oh, that's wonderful. Take care, Laura. It was so good to see you, sweetheart. Darlene Lawson's here too. This is great. But anyway, so some are done. Now these will need to have a little background piece sewn to them. And that's where all this will be the fudging part. And, and luckily, look at here. These seams do not line up. So that's good. That gives me a little leeway that none of this has to match up with the seam of this. Very good. So, it's like I think I'll be able to make this work. But I've promised myself that when I do the cornerstones, I'm going to be so careful with those cornerstones. So that is my pre-sewing or pre-cutting. I only have to do some more background cuts, and then I'm all ready with that. And I've started doing a little packing here and there, so that's good. Okay, let me now put this over, come back to y'all. But I tell you, this week, I had a headache like 3 days because it was a lot of concentration, a lot of focus, trying to read the directions. Sometimes I would have to go, and you know how there's different ways of reading. One of them is to put it in context. I had to do a lot of context, and um and just figuring out the math. Also, instead of doing the stars for the cornerstones, the sashing now is going to go from 4.5 inches to 3.5. So I had to make all those kind of calculations in my head too. So it was a challenge, and I'm glad I'm not a new quilter. I'm a very old quilter. This week I have emptied at least 3 or 4 spools of thread. Means I'm getting stuff done. I really wanted to have, put the Sparrow quilt on the frame, I think Tuesday. I really wanted to have it off the frame and share it with you. I just wasn't able. I'm trying to do this. The Sparrow quilt is very special to me. And so I want to be very careful with the quilting, which means slowing down. It means I can only do it a couple hours at a time. I'm going to be there no later than Monday. And that's why I was wondering if we could go Tuesday to dinner, Lisa. So I may leave next Sunday or I may leave next Monday. It just depends how much I can get done. I'm having a slight problem this week. Do any of you have this thing where you have an ear crystal, they call them, I think, that sometimes comes loose and makes you so dizzy? I'm having that problem. I've been having it since right like the day after Christmas. It is getting crazy. When I get up in the morning, I have to, hold on to everything because changing head direction. Like right now, sitting here, if I turn my head fast to the left because it's the left ear, I would just get, there are times my vision kind of goes, woo, 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 and it's just a stupid little ear crystal. I've tried to do that technique of turning your head and flopping back on the bed. It's not working. All it's done is made my neck kind of sore. So, it's like, whoa, I'm trying very hard. That's why I'm not quite sure exactly what day I'm going to get there because I have to be careful, make sure, make sure. Oh, you've had that problem. Mark said, yeah, I have it once in a while. It only lasts a couple days. No, not for me. It lasts like 2 weeks. So, oh, you've been having, yes. Don't you hate that? I don't know if it's a change in weather because we went from warm to cold right away. I don't know what, but I turned my head to the left one morning before I got out of bed. I thought I was going to be flung out of the bed. I got so dizzy. So, oh, I'm sorry. So, yeah, you know what I mean then. Oh, I don't think so, but I have been, I've had a sniffly nose on and off, so I don't know. And an ear doctor one time told me that I have incompetent eustachian tubes. I was offended. But my eustachian tubes are a mess. And he said, I hate to tell you this, but you'll never be able to dive underwater. And when you ride a plane, it's going to be painful. And he was right. So anyway, what can you do? Here we are. Did it take this long to find us? I'm so sorry, Mayor. I'm so sorry. Well, let's everybody give Mayor a little applause for continuing to try. Mayor, I don't know what happened. I was being so meticulous and starting. This OBS system is really wonderful because it allows me to show you close-up camera, have two cameras instead of just one, switch back and forth to show and tell instead of turning the whole computer around and all that. But if you don't follow each step meticulously, do I look meticulous to you? I don't think so. So, frustrating. But, oh gosh, so many of y'all are having that same ear crystal. And it's just because it's floating. It's come loose and it's floating. And so I have to be careful. Don't just hurry and bend down to the floor. So, oh, Bonnie, that's so sweet. Y'all are so nice. And look at our Marcia just welcoming everybody. She's an excellent hostess. So, all right, let me check my agenda. I'd be lost without this. Okay, the mystery quilt I did last week and loved it. If any of you want to try it, you could make the crib size like I did. It takes very little fabric, and I really enjoyed it, and I love it. Can't wait to get it quilted. It's going to be a perfect welcome spring quilt, don't you think? So I'm very, very happy. Lately, I have been loving flying geese. I don't know why. I just do. Sorry about that. I'm trying to reach the zoom in. Yeah, okay. Whoops. Wrong quilt, but I will find it. There. I love the flying geese. I think they're so pretty. I love what I did this time is I picked one fabric. I chose one fabric to be kind of the source of my colors. And the only difference that I did is, let me zoom back out. The only difference is I first picked out a cream color and did not like it with that quilt. So switching to a pale blue was the right decision. A very pale, pale blue. She said she wanted definition between each color. So that's why I'd gone with the cream, but it looked terrible with the yellows. I should have realized that wouldn't be a good mix. So, all right. So I just wanted to show you that mystery quilt. It was wonderful. It was done by Mary Mayhem, and she does a New Year's Day mystery quilt every year. Love her to bits. And she puts it out free. Starts usually right after Thanksgiving. She puts out 2 clues before New Year's Day. And she started out for people who might not have family to visit with during that time. And I think that, so sweet of her. Gives us all something to do. And now you have vertigo. Oh no, you call those your Rolling Stones. That is so cute. You're right though. And sometimes I'll turn around in the kitchen or something. See, I'm afraid to do it now because it really sends me. And I was noticing I was laying in bed and I had turned to the left and it looked like my eyes were going, whoop, like it was film, just scrolling through. So y'all know, enough of y'all have this. You understand. So when I get up at 4 in the morning to go tinkle, I am being so careful, holding on to everything, because just getting up from bed's enough to really send me. Oh, he described, that's good, which helps with the nausea. Yeah, Regal Rose, the nausea is so frustrating. I usually, once I get up, if I'm careful, I'm okay for during the day. I just am careful. But one day I was so nauseous and I said, I just got to sit here. I really am having a rough time. So, but you want to do a music blitz check? Huh, I'm not sure what that is. But yeah, I mean, vertigo can have several reasons. And for some of you who might be listening to this, usually vertigo is innocuous. I mean, it's frustrating, but it doesn't usually mean you're getting ready to have the big stroke. Usually it doesn't. But each person, if you feel worried, go to your doctor. But mine, I could actually tell is the ear crystal coming loose because it depends on my position, how I move. And when it does this, it's like just waiting in for it to either dissolve or latch back on. It's hard to explain it, but uh, exercises on YouTube, I want to check those out because I've been doing since it's in this ear, I turn my head to the right and fall back hard on the bed and then try to lay there for a minute. And you're hoping to force that crystal back into its mooring. Hasn't been working. So, anyway, my dogs just look at me like, what are you doing, Mama? So, okay. Ooh, I haven't made up. Oh, I've got a couple little things to show you. Bonnie sent me these bookmarks for Christmas and I love them. Thank you, Miss Bonnie. Thank you. And thank you most for the wonderful card material you sent me. It's upstairs. I have put another layer I make them into paper beads, and I have put another layer of triple thick, and then I'll string them up and I'll wear them for y'all. But I just thought I would show you. Sometimes when I get just a little bit overwhelmed with this ear crystal thing, I sit down and make paper beads. Or if it's 11 o'clock at night and I've got 1 hour before I go head back to bed, I'll take and make paper beads. I don't know what I'm going to do with these paper beads. I make some jewelry out of them, but it's just very peaceful for me to roll paper beads. And it's a challenge to find junk mail, leftover stuff, and figure out how I can use it to make the beads. And like I've got lots of beads see that blue stripe? That's a alimony type check that I get. And it makes me very happy to take and make permanent beads out of them. And but then here are some more gold beads that I made from the wrapping paper from Christmas. And so it's just, and this was a sale ad. This is going to make see that green? Whoops, let me show you. There are some green ones in here. Let me pull a few out in my hand. But this is going to make a great St. Patty's Day necklace. Look at these greens. They're nice and bright and pretty. So that's kind of what I do. And since I make them, I might not have enough to make a whole necklace, but over time, and I keep them all in Ziploc bags, I can go back and cull enough greens to make a necklace. And I've been enjoying that. I've been actually turning them into stuff more. So great junk mail, great leftover wrapping paper. Oh, I know what. I received one of those offers in the mail where they send you free address labels. And the envelopes are pretty. So I took the envelope and I cut off the pretty parts and rolled those into some beads. So it's just if I take something and I go, oh, that's pretty, I'll turn it into a bead. And one day I'll probably throw most of them away. But they will have done their trick, which it's something to keep my hands busy and my mind calm. And, you know, I love Kate Jackson from The Last Homely House because she said, get out of your mind and into your hands. That is so true. So, boy, have my hands been busy this last year. If you know what I mean, it's been my hands have been very busy. All right, but it's mindless, repetitive stuff, and it's so easy and cheap. How many things, especially nowadays, are cheap? All right, I think I've shown you everything except our snowman. I just wanted to double check. And what I'm going to do is I've got a bunch of stuff. I even brought a little folding table over, and we're just going to start. We're going to start working on this snowman. It's so funny. We've been talking a lot about AI drawings and how deceitful they can be when it comes to different craft items and things. And hand embroidery floss does not turn curves. It only can make its 2 points. You know, to anybody who does much hand embroidery knows you have to use several stitches to make a good curve. You can't just use pop up and pop back down. That makes a straight line. So there's little ways you can tell. There has been a new thing. I've been on Pinterest a lot. There's been a new thing on Pinterest where it has what looks like a quilt with dinosaur heads on it. That's not real. That's as real as that puppy. They keep talking about a robotic puppy. So real. My vet couldn't. Oh, that's baloney. That is not what that puppy is like. And a robotic puppy is not going to be able to jump up and down off the couch and turn its head or make little, we know what little wind up or battery powered things can do. So please don't fall prey to those scams. But anyway, so besides seeing the one with the dinosaurs, I've been seeing one that's for Easter. And on it, it has a bunch of flowers and it has an Easter bunny. And the Easter bunny's ears come out of the table runner. I'm sorry, you're not going to get that if you spend that kind of money. It's not going to happen. We've got to more than ever use your powers of discernment before you buy anything. Because if it seems too good to be true, it is. And all they want, I don't even believe some of these places do real business. They want to get your personal information. They want to hack you, but they do not want to give you a lifelike puppy that's really a robot. And they don't want to give you a table runner that has bunny ears coming out of it. So, but I kind of chuckle at these because, I'm not going to immediately pull out my credit card and go shopping. And if it's something that I think is really cute, then I'm going to see if I can figure out how can I make that. I'm threading my machine now, so if I do any sewing, I'll be ready because I had to take out the brown threads and put in the off-white or the white. Yeah, I think it's pretty white. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the close-up camera, show you a few things. Then I think we'll do show and tell at the very end. We only have a couple more. I think about 4 more new pictures. So, all right, I'm going to switch to over here. And then let's look at this little puppy. And I'm excited to do this snowman, and I want to get it done fast because I don't know. Right now Doug is still up in my living room because every time we look at it, it makes me so happy. So this is what we're working on now. And this is a wonderful drawing that makes it look like it's a real thing, that you could really buy this and have this. So what we're going to do is we're going to call their bluff and we're going to try to make this. And I think we can. We've got a lot of smart people here. I've already been listening to your hints. And so I've drawn this on here. This drawing is available on our site for free. Here is my carrot fabric here. Look, I found some wool for his scarf, which I'm very excited about. And we're going to use a lot of stuffing to make it really look like a scarf. And in fact, I'm going to bring you down here so you can see this. Now, I did some pencil lines on this because I was trying to see at what part of this horizontally did what part of this land so I could do an accurate program. And in here is, I did use graph paper and I'm doing the 16-part fold. This is great for changing the size, enlarging or shrinking of anything that you see. And it's also good for more easily being able to draw your starting photo. And what I did is I put some lines across here. I've erased almost all of them. And with this system, what you do is I make the paper 16 rectangles. I make whatever surface 16 rectangles. And so what you do, very, very simple. My daughter taught me this. She went to college and learned this. And I only got through color studies in college, so I didn't get this. But here, what you do is here's the 1/16 rectangle, here's the 1/16. Whatever's in here, you draw in here. And it really helps makes drawing so much easier. Now, I sometimes change things, but at least it lets me know and it keeps me on target with what needs to go where. So when you print this out for free, just remember, fold it into 16 rectangles just by going half, 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 half. There you go. And then on this, you just take your ruler and go half, 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 half until you've got 16 segments. All right. And they are rectangular because the paper I draw on is usually copy paper or something like that. So, all right. I have decided that this is going to be my background. I looked at some really cute things. And one of them had snowflakes, and one of them was a batik. Where is that batik? I was so tempted with this batik, but I do love that bold background because it really sets off the white on, oops, let me bring this up a little. It really sets off the white of the snowman. Now, I found this and that looked like snowflakes, but guess what? Then when you put the white, it's just not as dramatic. I don't know. What do you think? Please give me your ideas. Oh, sock snowman dolls. They're awfully cute. Oh, good. Yes. Do we have buttons? And yeah, especially right here for that mouth, that's going to take some. So what I've done is I'm not going to put a stabilizer on the background because this is pretty inexpensive fabric that's kind of already, I do wish I could use that if it were just darker, but oh, what I may do, maybe I'll take and put a little bit like on this left-hand side. I could do that. So, yeah, so, now let me see. Then this is going to be the hat material because it's dark blue, but very almost reads black. So this is going to be the hat. It's got a medium weight stabilizer to give me some, because I'm going to try to have a brim that sticks out. Yep, that's what this drawing looks like. That's what we're going to try to do. So I've got this fabric. I've put the interfacing on both the body and the head, and I've drawn them on. And just so you know, I've drawn them at least a quarter of an inch bigger than what they're going to be on the frame, because they are going to be done in a slightly different way. Here's going to be the carrot nose, and I chose a fabric that had lots of lines and stuff on it so that it would give the carrot some texture that way. And then we can also, okay, we can also then make it, I'm looking here for something. I'm probably going to use the light areas of here for the berries and maybe some from here so that I can kind of vary the berries. But these I need to cut out. And what I'm going to do, let me just get a hunk of this. All of this stuff needs to be prepped before it's put down. Okay? This is not going to be as easy as Doug. This is more of a challenge to see, can we beat the scammers? And I think we can. I really, really do. So now let me pull some of this fabric out, keep it handy. It's so much easier just to pull off a hunk and keep it with your work fabric. And I'll get a big plastic storage bag and put all of this in that. But I'm going to show you again how I'm going to make these components so that if you want to try this too, I'm going to do it slightly ahead of you so you don't have to worry unless you are happy to run with it the way you want. You know what? I just looked over. I think I'm going to use this. I'm trying to keep it very similar to this one. And you notice how those aren't nice and bright. So I think I will try to use some of this because this kind of makes it jars. What we're trying to really keep it looking like this. So I think this is too bright. All right, so now, but I want some that are a little lighter. So this doesn't have to be as fussy cut, so it's not going to be as big a piece. Okay. So now we've got this. So we've got red berries. We've got an orange nose. We've got a scarf. We don't have brown for the arms, but I will get that later. But I do have fabric for the holly leaves. And I love that it's light pale, and I thought this is the perfect fabric for the holly leaves. And this will be a backup. Some of them, if you notice up in here, are much lighter. So I'm going to vary between these two fabrics for the holly leaves. And I have some other fabric if I choose. It looks like it tends to go a little bit green over here. So I might try to find something that with a little blue green. But I think now, I don't have a hat band fabric. But you know what I think I'm going to do for the hat band fabric? I might do one of my lames upstairs. I have some silver lame. That might be really pretty to give it a little pop. And then I have containers of buttons everywhere. So I will search my buttons and pull out the 3 different size buttons. 2 big buttons for the belly, 2 medium ones for the eyes, and then medium small to very small for the mouth. All right, so this is what we're going to have to do. This is the tricky part of this pattern, but I love the challenge, and thank you, Miss Bonnie, for finding this. I think it's a fantastic challenge for us. So the first thing I'm going to do here, let me bring this up so you can see. I've heated up my iron. I'm going to give this fabric a good iron. And you know what I'm also going to do? I'm going to give it a little starch, because anytime you want a dimensional fabric or fabric with any kind of shape, then give yourself a hand, make it easy, and start with starch to give it some body. Okay, I'm going to cut this off here. Okay, I'm going to iron this down. This is my medium weight interfacing. And then I'm just going to cut a strip off of this. And I usually buy the interfacings by the bolt because I tend to use them a lot. But you can just go, in fact, now I guess you would go to Michael's to get fusible interfacing, unless you have a good source online. And okay, and just make sure you iron it down good. And this I'm doing on a high iron. This little battery powered iron, doesn't get quite as hot as some of my other irons. But so now you have something that's very stabilized. Now, what I'm going to do for each of these fabrics is I'm going to cut a piece of muslin or cheap fabric to go behind it. So let me, have to cut this a little more. Everything that gets put on this is most likely going to have some batting on the back side. And everything has to be prepared before we put it on the canvas, even the background. The background, it needs to have muslin on the back. It needs to have batting in the middle and stitched so it can be quilted. Then you put it on the frame. All right, so here I go. I have got this and this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch around the shape and then cut it and turn it inside out. So what I'm going to do first is, now once I turn this inside out, it's going to be a very different shape. Now, let me find my drawing again. Oops, here's my drawing. And let's see what I need to do. Oh, I made a very big piece of fabric, but whoops, no, I need to use this. This is the right size. Do not use the drawing unless it's exactly the same size. So what I'm going to do is lay this on here, and I'm going to draw at least 1/4 of an inch on either side of this. Okay, at least 1/4 of an inch bigger on each side. Okay, so then cut this. Now, this is the part that gets me a little confused sometimes, because how in the world do I figure out how this is going to go? Now, if I flip this inside out, it's going to want to go the other way, isn't it? So I think what I have to do, if I turn this one around, turn this one around. So I need to take and transcribe that line to the other side. And remember, I left enough around it to have a sewing seam allowance. Okay, so I think if I do it this way, and I'm going to leave an opening so I can turn it. All right, now I will bring you over to my sewing machine. I'm going to drop my stitching line down to 1.9, okay? And I'm going to stitch just inside this line. You're going to lose a little bit of this space. I'm going to stitch not a full 1/4 of an inch because you're going to lose a little bit of that size. Once, okay, let me start it here. So I'm not going to do a full 1/4 of an inch, slightly less than a 1/4 of an inch, because when you turn it inside out, you lose a little bit of that size. So now let's see. And you know what I just realized? I was supposed to wrinkle this up a little bit to look like the photo. So I'm going to have to work on that. But I left an opening, probably not enough of an opening to really get that through. Let me grab a seam ripper. I'm going to open this up just a little bit more. Let me see. I think I'll take these stitches down here. I'm trying to think what is going to be the easiest to close up once I get it going. Okay. So each piece we do, you have to do this method to. Even the body, the hat, everything, because everything has quilting on it that we can't do once you put it on the canvas. All right, so now I've got this, and I'm going to be able to go into this corner. I'm going to open a few more stitches. Sometimes it's better to have to do a few more closing stitches than to have it so tiny you can't work good. Now, what I'm going to do is cut off the end here, and I'm going to trim this so it's easier. Oops, I'm worried now that you weren't able to see very good. But hi, Miss Joe. And then what I'm going to do is try to start turning this inside out. And it can be a little tricky. This is where if I bring in a skewer, it can help. But this is probably the hardest part of this whole thing, is trying to turn the fabric inside out. I'm going to take off a little bit of that seam allowance, and here where you have to turn a corner, I'm going to just clip it. Don't clip it the threads that you sewed. Just stop right before where you sewed and give it a little clipping. Okay. Now, let's try this again. This is the hard part. Right here. Well, this is and wait till you start doing all those little berries, because they're just little circles. So it's going to be a little tricky, but we can do it. If I have to sew more, then that's going to be easy enough. All right. Let me try to get If I can get it coming out enough, then I can try to stick the blunt end of the stiletto. I can try to stick the blunt end of the stiletto to push out the point. That's always the hard part. But this is probably the single hardest shape that we're going to have to work with. The rest, round shapes are much easier, and oval shapes are much easier. Now, I guess when it comes to some of the ivy leaves, it will be a wee bit tricky. Now, I'm going to use the pencil because it's a little bigger and softer. Then just slowly keep turning this inside out. And when you get it like this, then try to reach in there and grab some of these fabrics to peel them inside out. If you know of an easier way to do this, feel free to tell me. Walmart, Michaels, and Hobby Lobby. Good job, Miss Bonnie. Thank you. Yeah, feel free to share your sources because it all matters, you know, especially if you're on a budget. It matters, and I'm always on a budget. So, I think I've taught Mark that if you watch the pennies, you can have a lot more fun. Because there's more you can do if you know, save here, there, and everywhere else. So, oh, and he's hitting his stride with his hobby table. For Christmas, I gave him a soldering station and some tools and stuff. Oh, he's having the best time. So, and I'm always glad. I feel like that having a hobby is a wonderful way to bring enjoyment and peace of mind to your life. So, because if it's all about work and then sleep, that's just not a lot of fun. And there's something very rewarding about a hobby too. That okay, come on. And then we're going to I'm going to do something. I hate to even show you this, but I'm having a hard time getting this fabric to turn inside out. The reason I don't want to show you this is it's so easy to push too hard and to push the tip of those scissors right through the end of this fabric. But I need a little more muscle than I was getting. So just be careful. Okay, come on, come on, come on. I know you can do this. Come on, come on. Now, let me try something here. I've got, well, I think that's going to be too big at the end. Sometimes you can take a large needle and carefully go in, and pull a large amount out at once. You know, like don't just pull in a little area because that needle will cut the thread. So just go in and kind of gently tease it. Take your time. Because if you don't take your time, you'll be making another one of these, I guarantee you. Because once all these threads, if they get cut or damaged, there's nothing to do but make a new one. All right, so here we go. Whoops, get that, see? It slipped, but luckily that's one thread. If I can keep getting it out without pulling any more, then I'll be okay. Now I'm going to take this stiletto and go in there. I think that's pretty good. And then what I do is I take this stiletto and I try to use wooden stilettos because, you know, when you're using them to push under a machine, if your needle hits it, it's less likely to damage your machine. But what I'm going to do is come in here and press these edges, and press these edges. Okay, press and press. See how I'm just stretching it out to its full length. There we go. Now, if you'll notice with this image, it doesn't really look stuffed. It just looks slightly wrinkled. Okay, so I'm going to see. What I'm going to do is kind of take it and pleat it and wrinkle it like this, put a hot iron on it, then bring it over here back to the machine to stitch it. But this one doesn't look like it does not look like it has any stuffing in it. Now we could do stuffing, but we're trying to recreate that look. Now, all right, so I'm crunching it up on the ironing table and then pressing a hot iron on it. And here we go. So when I stitch this, I am going to, first thing I'm going to do, hold on one second. I'm going to get a little bit of my tacky glue and I'm going to put it right along this edge. Now, if I wasn't on camera, I would take the time to probably hand stitch this opening shut. Oh, come on, tacky glue. Most of the time when I work, I have the tacky glue open the whole time. So it gets a little thick right near the edge. Okay, here we go. I stick a pen down in it, wipe the pen off, or else you'll permanently glue it. You'll permanently glue the pen into your pen cushion. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just continue to bend these edges in, bend that seam allowance in like this. Do the same to the background. In fact, if anything, fold the backing fabric into a slightly bigger seam allowance so it doesn't show from the front. You don't want any of this fabric to show from the front. And here we go. All right, so here we are. So I think that's going to be a pretty good carrot nose. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it under the machine and I'm going to wrinkle it up. Now I'm going to put it on a little bigger stitch. Okay, I'm going to put it back up to, let's do 23, 24, something like that. And I'm going to stitch right at the edge. And this is so that I can get some of that wrinkly look in. And that's why I'm going to do a little bit bigger thread stitch so that I can stretch it out as I need to. But I want to get those wrinkles in there. This is where it comes in really handy to use your stiletto because you don't want to hurt your fingers that close to the sewing needle. And I do it slowly because I do not want to break a needle. All right, so now that's giving us, and with the bigger stitches, I can stretch it out if I have to, or break a couple of the stitches to get it big enough. Now I'm going to go back in, and all I want to do is just make it look wrinkled. It doesn't have to actually be very wrinkled, but I am going to, let me put my needle down first. There, whoops, needle down. Okay, then I'm going to take my stiletto and just kind of push it in. Keeping it right near the edge. And see, with that wooden stiletto, I'm able to get right in by the needle without feeling like I'm going to cause catastrophe. All right, and then I'm going to go along the back here. Okay. All right, so here is, the nose is not as wrinkled as the one on the canvas, but one thing we can do is we could come in here and I don't really want to sew the line. That doesn't look right. But I think we can come back in with ink tints, something of that sort, and just kind of make the lines more noticeable. But just keep wrinkling it up and ironing it to try to make it look. And in fact, get it warm and just hold it in your hand and wrinkle it up. Because we want, now let me see if I can put the iron on this. All right. So here's our nose. And I think that, and I will keep wrinkling it because you just want little tiny versions. And let me make sure it's still, yep, it's still going to be big enough. And we just want to create that look of wrinkles. And what I may do is just go in here and do each little wrinkle one at a time. And there is the nose. But now, the other pieces will all have to be stuffed. So let me show you what I mean. Here is going to be the nice big body. And I will take a piece of the scrap fabric. I will cut it out. This is the body. Yeah, okay. I will cut it out the same size here. I like having the fabric, if I can spare it, I like having it a little bit bigger. It's easier to sew and turn it under your machine. I'm way too close. Let me bring this up. Okay. So now, all right. And this will be the last piece I'll show you today. But this is a good week to start on all of the holly leaves, all of that. So I have scraps of batting. I will put this in here like this. Now this is going to be the odd part for you. And I'll show you, let me get my longer scissors. With those short scissors, they get hung up in the batting. I have some wonderful batting scissors upstairs beside my long arm that are offset scissors, and they are perfect. So, okay. Now, here is the backing, which is not going to show. It doesn't need anything. And this is what's going to surprise you. When I'm going to stitch this and then fold it right sides together, the batting has to be on the bottom. And that's going to feel kind of weird. And it's okay. Now we're going to put this, and what, I'm going to have to draw this on darker because I always draw it on this side, but actually you need to see it from the other side because this is going to be facing the inside. And this, I'm drawing on the seam allowance. Do not worry, it will not be shown on the real thing. Whoops. I just want to have a dark enough line that I can see it. Okay. Let's see if that will be dark enough because I'm going to have to do this. Yes, I can still see that. So what I'm going to do now is get my pin cushion and I'm going to pin a lot. Okay. And I'm pinning from the inside to keep the pin from my needle and making sure I go all the way through to the batting, but keeping the needle well inside the line. I'll never forget when Alex Anderson on her original sewing show talked about hitting a needle and breaking the shaft of her sewing machine. And ever since then, I am so careful because that, especially back then, that would have ruined my sewing day because I was on such a tight budget. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the sewing machine, sew just inside this line, and then show you how to flip it. But remember, the batting has to be on the back. And see how I've pinned all the way through it? So let's go back to the sewing machine. All right. I can see the line. You might not be able to, but I can see it. So now I'm going to put my stitch length back down to 1.9. I'm going to come and sew just inside this, okay? But not too far inside it because especially with all the batting, it's going to make it pull, kind of shrink up just a little. So here I go. Let me stitch around here. Just inside, about 1/8 of an inch inside that line. And don't forget, leave a space to turn it. I'm probably going to do that space. I should have thought about this earlier, but I'll probably do that about now. I'll cut the thread, move it down a little bit. Oops, let me find that line again. Let me see. There it is. Okay. Let me double check. I want to make sure I'm looking at the line. Okay. Okay, and back to close. All right. And see, having all of those pins is important because now the batting lays nice and flat, and it's just what you want. So the first thing I'm going to do is take out all of these pins. Okay. Take out all these pins like this. Then I'm going to cut around, leaving a good 1/4 of an inch on this side of the stitching line. Cut all the way around, making sure you're getting the batting on the back. I'll never forget the first time I had to do this to a quilt, and I just couldn't bear to put the batting hanging off the back. It just didn't feel right, and I thought, no, it can't be right, but it is. But you know, if you tie a quilt or do like a pillowcase kind of closure, now save these scraps because you will use them for all those little holly berries. I'll save those. Now I'm going to come in here. Let me grab my little ones again. And I'm just going to clip. And this whole thing, whoop, they're not sharp enough at the very tip, so I'm going to come back to these. I'm going to leave this stuffing where it is, and I want to show you one more thing. Remember when I was talking about how I do the stuffing for the tummy to give it that nice round look? Well, I'm going to show you that. Okay. You just do tiny nips all the way around. This will make it so much easier for you. And then let me find my scraps of batting. And what I'm going to want to do is do one smaller than this. Okay. So I'm going to do it smaller than this. So I'm going to trim off the corners. All right. Save these for holly berries. So now see how that's a little smaller? Then we're going to cut one more even smaller. Okay. So I think this would do well. Let me cut off a hunk of this. Okay, that is smaller. So this time I'm just going to fold it in half so I can clip those corners nice and fast. All right. Then now this. So by graduating those in, I'm going to get a nice fluffy tummy. So what I'm going to do is turn this inside out first. Now, let me see. Okay, I guess I did put my glue back in here. What I'm going to do is let this glue start to set up while I'm turning it inside out. I don't want to glue these on until I have it turned inside out, because having this many, it would get really messy. So now I've got the glue setting on that. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to turn this inside out. Come on. And where are my hemostats? Hemostats come in real handy with this. It was too little last time, but it should work really well this time. So I just come in with my hemostats and grab this other side like this and pull it inside out. And this is where you can use chopsticks or your fingers or a pencil. Just please try not to use anything sharp that will make you puncture through it. All right, so now got this turned inside out. I'm going to take my finger, push, since it's small enough, my finger and push around all the edges. Okay. All right. Push around all these edges. Now, before I put the batting in, I'm just going to give it a quick smash iron just to kind of get those edges a little bit flatter. So let me just grab the iron real fast. Get that ready. Oh, I got a lot of things building up. All right, let's see. All right. Okay, so I just ironed the edge a little flatter. Then I'm going to take, and you can tell which side the batting is laying on, the scrap fabric side. So I'm going to take this and roll it up, put it in here. Come on. Okay, I don't know if Polly's still here, but I saw a person making a diorama the other day, and I thought of Polly. And I thought, oh gosh, I would love for her to teach me how she does that diorama stuff. So, and I save all the scraps from my miniature kits so that if I want to make up some of my own little houses, I can. Okay, so now I unrolled this with my finger. I unrolled it, got it in place. What I'm going to do now is drop a little glue down in here to there. Okay, so I got some glue, and then I just smash it down. That will hold it in place. And then, now, the one thing I noticed, and the reason I'm not using matching thread, is because their stitching lines show and they don't seem to mind it. So see here, all the stitching lines show. So I'm going with that. Now, here is his body. If you notice, there's quilting on that body. So first thing I'm going to do is stitch it all around the edges. Oh. Okay. I'm going to come in here and stitch right by the edge. All right. So now I've got this cute, whoops, I stitched off the edge a little bit. Let me get back, do a little bit more. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is they kind of have a leaf and loop looking type quilting. So let me see if I'm going to make my stitches just a touch bigger, back up to 20. Let me see if I can do some little quilting. Okay. It's not something that's that easy for me to do. So let me try. But see already, do you see how it's puffing down a little? A lot? All right. So okay. All right. So now you're seeing. See, this is the reason. See how this is so puffy? And see what it looks like quilted? That's the reason I know that this is not real. This is just AI. But what we're going to do to copy their method is when we finish all the quilting of this, we're then going to cut 3 more pieces of batting to put under here. And there, like this. And oh, got something from Dolores. When I do quilting on a stuffed piece, I quilt on the front and batting and then lay the back on and stitch and turn. I like that. Now, how do you keep your batting from getting caught in your feed dogs? I think I've tried that, and the problem I had, my batting got all tangled. But what we're going to have to do to have this look is we're going to have to do 3 more layers and put between this and the background. But I'm wondering, how does Dolores, because Dolores knows this stuff. She is an amazing artist. And maybe she can tell us, how do we keep the batting from being caught in the feed dogs? All right. But you're seeing how we're going to have to do every little step like that. They have quilting on the hat. We're going to have to do the same thing for that. So, but I'm really You think it'd be better with the quilting foot? I bet you're exactly right. Because I could at least see what I'm doing better with the quilting foot. Okay. So I've got most of this. I think I'm going to add a little bit more right here. Let me do a leaf. And plus, it's hard. I'm pulling against my feed dogs, so that makes it a little tricky. But okay. All right. So here is the quilting on this. Okay. Well, if I drop the feed dogs, the problem I have is it's hard for me to adjust the sewing speed. So I find sometimes that pulling carefully against the feed dogs, if you pull against the feed dogs, you risk breaking your needle. So you have to sew pretty fast so that there's a good chance the needle's up in the air while you're moving it. But I find that now, so then I find that it does better if I have that little drag against the feed dogs. But okay, so what I would do now is do a piece this size, then smaller, then smaller. And when this goes on the background, that's going to go underneath it. And then I guess I'm just going to fuse around the edges so that it will stay in place but have a little more puff underneath. But now I hope you can understand why that this quilt is a little more tricky than it first appears. But and I'm wondering now, when Dolores multiple layers of batting first. Oh, good. But then stabilizer. Yep, that's a good thought too. Because when you do put on the fabric on the back, it really flattens it. And so then we'll have to add more. But that's the only way to get this puffy, rounded look of this tummy with the quilting is, you have to do them 2 steps at a time. And I wish, maybe I'll stitch this and put the whole thing on the canvas when I'm done, because I would like to get this sewn to the background around the edge to really get the puff look. So we're going to take this a few pieces at a time because this is going to be tricky for us. We've got to figure out how to make it look like what they do, because what they're doing is impossible. So we're going to try to, I think I really would. I think even fusing this, I'm not going to get as pretty of an edge. So I would like this something this big put on the background before it gets glued on the canvas. So these are the first 2 pieces today. When it comes to all of these holly leaves, you can make those ahead, put something on the back, a little padding, do a little quilting. And these you do want to have. You want to really show the veining in the leaves so you can get some dimension. And then, you know what? I think we're going to end up sewing all this right onto this finish, or the finished background that's already going to be quilted by the time we put this stuff on it. So it's just, you can see this is a lot of work, but I think we're going to end up with something pretty cool when we're done. All right, let's go real quick and peek at show and tell before we say goodbye. Thank you for sticking with me through all this. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so now let's bring up show and tell. Here it is. And let's go to Miss Bonnie, who finished a quilt this week. Way to go, Miss Bonnie. Whoops, let me bring it over. No, come on. No. Bring it over. All right. Look at this nice black quilt. And you know, look how she used a print that had a running vine in it. I really like the texture and that gave the quilt. It really gives it a very striking appearance. Way to go, Miss Bonnie. Okay, let's see who is next. Let's see. I saw Miss Charlene, so I'm going to show her flowered jacket again because I think that's wonderful. One thing I'm going to tell you when you look at something like this, I have a hard time doing something like this right away. I have a hard time starting on this and sticking with it. For me, this would be a project I would do a little bit at a time. That's one thing I have in common with Kate Jackson, the last home house. She has numerous projects going at once because she kind of gets bored of something, and that way she can switch. So if Charlene does that, I wouldn't blame her one bit. All right, let's see. Debbie, I love Debbie's Christmas decorations. They're wonderful. Here is the wonderful Santa. Then I love that quilt. That is so cute. I love her staircase gallery. Looking really nice. I bet you she's going to be switching it out soon to like a winter theme. So, isn't that wonderful? If we could all hire a Debbie to decorate our house, wouldn't that be great? Debbie decorates. I would love that. And her mantle. That is a really cool Santa right there. And look at this. Isn't that beautiful? And this. Beautiful, beautiful. So thank you, Miss Debbie. And I'm so tickled you got a new quilt rack for Christmas. So now you can have lots of vignettes everywhere. All right, let's see. Miss Dolores will do a quick run through for our final Miss Dolores art show. These are her 3-inch works of art. I just am so amazed at what she can do. Understand, this is only 3 inches square. And this way she can have beautiful works of art that the average person could afford. And look at this. Isn't that a wonderful squirrel? She is a very talented artist. So look at the hedgehog. Oh gosh, that's cute. Cute, cute. And look at all the thread painting she does. Beautiful work. And this chair cover is exquisite with the French chain and then the chevrons and that beautiful poppy flower on it. Beautiful. And of course, her gorgeous supply of threads. Okay. Here is her felted fox. Gosh, I love that. Look at his eyes. You just picture you can see he's thinking about something, maybe the next thing to eat. Her wonderful grandson with his horse portrait. Love it. Love that. Look at that. Isn't that exquisite? I love collage works. And look at the yarn on his mane. I love that. So very creative and a beautiful otter. There is the cutest YouTube otter show, and where a man kind of adopts an otter, and they're absolutely adorable together. Okay, now let's see. There are also some other ones that have people doing more with otters, like they rehab them. But this man just made friends with an otter out in nature, and it's really sweet. I love Miss Jo's Snail's Trail Undersea Quilt. I think it's exquisite. It's so subtle. It is just, it's a lot classier than I think I could have made. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Way to go, Miss Jo. All right, now let's see. Miss Mary, I do believe, yes. Well, Miss Mary, had a couple finishes like this that are really wonderful. I love this. It makes me want to try to take my English paper piecing blocks with me. And I love that. And then here is her new fireplace in her house. I love that. It's so nice to have a fireplace and mantle, isn't it? Love it. And then look at her gorgeous. It looks kind of, it's not a cypress. I forgot what it's called. It's something similar, but that tree is so delicate and beautiful. I love that. So way to go. Way to go, Miss Mary. Thank you for sending those to us. And let me see. Yep. And her wonderful string quilt. String quilt of many colors. All right. Now let me see. We may just about, I think we are done with show and tell. So now I will come back and thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I know I've been a little tired. I have been working a lot, but it's well worth it to get to spend this time with you. Thank you for offering all of your hints and your tips. I will definitely use that. And I'm going to try that method Dolores said too of just taking your top fabric and the batting and do some quilting on that. So I'm going to see if I'm up to that. And, but thank you everyone for spending this time with me. Do something really good for yourself. This week I will be, and I do need to talk to you about what to do for next week's show. I will be traveling on Sunday. And, I'm getting a little old to push myself to try to get into a hotel and put on a show. So let's think Monday. I'm thinking Monday, 3 p.m. I know that's New York time, and I know some of you work outside the home, but at least I want you to see during the daylight. I want you to see the ocean. Not everybody lives on ocean, not even me. And just to see and hear that ocean is wonderful. So I'll take some photos and video, and then we'll go live right from the beach Monday at 3 p.m. I was going to say maybe 3:30. And you'll see when I load the show. But I want to make sure we get on before it gets dark. And it gets dark early now. So everyone have a great week. Do something special just for you. Please think of Miss Good that and her wife and her son who no longer have her. So it's going to take a while, but we just got to keep working on this. So, anyway, take good care of yourself. Have a great, great week. I'll see you soon. All right. Bye bye.